Hello everyone, I'm Denise Love. Here's a little preview of what we'll be doing today. So let's get started. Thought we could do a color palette challenge today. I'm in the mood to paint some watercolor gouache abstracts and play a little bit with opacities. And I thought I just pulled a color palette out of number 1, Color Cube Volume 1 by Sarah Renee Clark. And I link all these down below the video for you, so check out the description for links and what I'm using. I thought we'd go for this color palette 119 because I was very inspired by this blue-green palette. And so what I did was I thought I want to play in opacities and colors today. So I got out I'm working on the Hahnemühle watercolor cold press 140 pound paper. It's what I've already cut in half and taped down. So I got out my painter's diary and I looked at my Holbein Gouache and I thought, look at that moss green and that light ochre could be that tan. You know, my goal's not to be exact. My goal is to work within a color palette and get very close, but I don't try to be exact. I'm okay with getting close. So I thought those two colors were super cool for these. This could also be green gold, but I want to use the gouache and the watercolor together. I also pulled chromium green oxide for this darker green. And I pulled Blue Apatite Genuine for this blue. And I was thinking Sleeping Beauty for this bright turquoise color. And that's where I came up with my color palette. And this is my painter's color diary that I put all those in. And man, this thing has been fantastic. It's my favorite little tool this year. So I went ahead and I just taped down my paper with some artist tape. I just cut it in half and taped it down, and we're just going to see what can we create with this yummy color palette. So I'm going to put my paints on a palette and I'll be right back. Right, so I got these Rosemary & Company brushes and I thought it might be fun because I showed them in an art haul. I'm not sure when you'll see this video, but there was an art haul with all these brushes in it, and I thought it'd be fun to experiment with the great big number 2 synthetic mop, Sienna synthetic mop brush, and just see what we thought about it. My goal today is to play with opacities, and I kind of want to do some real light and then do some real strong, and I just want to see like what can we get if we're playing with a light touch with the colors and then maybe a strong touch with some colors. I don't know. It's just about the play today. And I like doing 2 pieces because it gives me a little bit of time to experiment with my thoughts and mix colors, and the paint stay wet a lot longer, because a lot of times, you know, when you're painting on student grade papers, that paint dries super fast. And I want time to think about these as I'm going. Okay, so the gouache is going to be a heavier, thicker opacity, and I'm kind of excited about that. This is an interesting feel on this brush. It's different than my other mop brushes that I normally use, so that's kind of an interesting observation. It's a little stiffer. I think I could use it with, you know, like acrylic paints and stuff. I don't know, it's definitely a different feeling than my Raphael brush that I use a lot. And this brush is a real thick brush too, like there's a lot of bristles in there. All right, maybe I want to come in with some of this yummy ochre. Maybe I don't love the ochre. If you put it on there and you're like, I don't know if I love that or not, just use it a little. Nothing saying you got to use it everywhere. All right, so I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if I'm going to like this green one on here or not. We'll just see. Oh, just be brave. This might not be the color palette that I love in the end after all. But then again, we might get done and you might go, whoa. I might go, whoa, never expected that. This is exactly why using these cubes have been so exciting for me, because I push way outside of what I would normally do. And I love that extra challenge, let's go in here with the Sleeping Beauty and just see. Might just be a light touch of color in there. But man, I work way outside my comfort zone doing these, and I have discovered the best stuff, like things that I will use again, color palettes that are like my new favorite, and I kind of have those taped up on the wall. Alright. So, my favorite part about this so far is that moss green. And I almost feel like I need to come in here with this Payne's Gray, this blue apatite. Looks like a Payne's Gray, doesn't it? It's the blue apatite genuine. I need more of that, maybe. Or maybe I need a blue gouache to kind of even this out. Now I want to get my gouache drawer back out. Let's think about this. And let's see, I've got, oh, look at this. I actually have ice blue, which is like a pretty turquoise. I don't know about that. I don't know, that's kind of crazy. Let's put it out. It's kind of like that Sleeping Beauty that might pull that color in for us. Let me set this over there. I'll forget I pulled that out. Oh my gosh, that's a crazy color. Should we try it? Oh my god, oh yeah, it's actually crazy. This is why you do two of them, so you could try it on one, and then you can go, whoa, that was a bad decision. Then you can try it on the other. Alright, we might have made a bad decision here, I don't know. My favorite part is still the moss green. Oh my gosh, we're crazy. I don't know. Is there any way to save it now? Oh, let's see what else is in here. Now I feel like we can just throw the sink at it. Let's see. I'm trying to keep in mind my color palette over here. I do, you know, the moss green is my favorite, so I might just play a little more with the moss green. Kind of mixing it a little bit, just seeing like what does that do on top of these other colors. Could wiping my brush out. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like maybe we need to let that dry and possibly mark make on top. I think that would make me feel better. So kind of thinking I'll grab a pencil. What do we got over here? Just random one. I grabbed this Art Graph 6B, so I like my 6Bs and my 12Bs. I like those. So this one's water soluble, so now that I'm drawing on, you know, something wet, it is making it a little darker, which I do like that. And if I were to go over that with water, it would squeeze it in even more. And I hold it way back so I have less control over the pencil. I don't want my marks to be controlled and exact and too similar. Alright, so that totally made me feel better to get the pencil. Here's my philosophy on painting. If it's not good enough yet, you don't have enough layers. So add more layers. Okay, so I do kind of feel like maybe I'm going to have to let this dry a little bit. Now that we've got to this, I'm kind of thinking that we could come back in now and add some marks or some dots or lines or whatever it is that you're kind of feeling this could use. And we already know that I loved this moss color, so I could come back in with a brush and do some marks or circles or lines or something, some type of mark making with this color. And let's just dive right in and do it. And I'm using this number 6 Princeton Select brush because I have discovered I like the way it lets me do some shapes. And I'm not really watering it down. This is the that gouache. I'm not trying to water it down. I want it to be more solid. And these little dots are just my own personal thing I like to do. You don't have to do the same marks I'm doing. I want you to experiment and figure out what marks and things that you love. Now these are some of the things that I have been playing in and loving, and why not just, if you like it, do more of it. If you don't like it, don't do it. And it's not about judging whether you like what I did or not. Sometimes I'll have people say, you just ruined that piece when you did blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, really? That was my very favorite bit on the whole piece. So number one, why would you be rude and tell people something like that? Shame on you. And number two, how about you get to make an art and you create how you like. Doesn't have to be all about picking on somebody else and what they liked. Just saying. I'm amazed every time somebody does that. Like, really? Would you have said that to my face? You get all brave on your keyboard. People give me a break. Where's my thing to hang my hand on here? Here we go. I'm amazing what people on the internet do. Manners have just gone out the window. We need to get back to basics there on being nice to people. Alright, I'm actually loving my moss colored marks quite a bit. Like, I love them. I don't care if anybody else likes them at all. If you were going, no, don't do that. I want you to get your paint out and start painting some of your own stuff, and then you can play and figure out what you like. And maybe you'll have a little more grace for the rest of us who are being brave, trying out new things, just figuring it out as we go. Okay, I actually really liked that. And I kind of want, I was almost going to skip it, but man, I kind of want some pastels. I'm going to set these on the side. I could too use, now that I'm looking over here at my little Posca pen stash, we could use some Posca pen in there. Or, what else could we do? We've got some woodies up here. Ooh, you know what? In these little woodies, I've got this yummy green. This is the Stabilo 3-in-1s. What if, I don't know. All right, just do it. Just be brave. Once you think of it, just jump on it. I like the little circles with like a ring of some other color. Just my own personal preference. You don't have to do that. But when you think of something, think, ooh, what would it look like if I did that? And then that might become like your favorite thing that you've done. And you just need that 1 second of braveness. Okay, and see? Totally glad I did that. I love that little extra bit there. And, you know, we could come over here and add a little extra little dot in our dots. That might be fun. I'm all about layering the little layers, especially when I do the stencils, and I figured that out when I did that flower one that I like so much, and then I layered a little bit of stuff on top of the flower stencil, and I was like, oh, totally elevated it to the next level. And it can tone down a color for you if you're like, well, it wasn't quite the right color. This is a good way to tone it down. It's a good way to introduce another shade of the same color and complicate your color palette a little more, make it more interesting, and add other layers and depth into your color palettes. That's why I like using these cards. I expand a color palette beyond what I ever would have even considered. Okay, I love that. That's pretty awesome. Still kind of looking here at my options. Yeah, it helps you get more depth and creativity in those color palettes. Whereas, you know, if you're thinking blue-orange palette, maybe you pick 2 colors, but now I've picked blue-green palette, but look at the interest and depth in that palette that we can get. We don't have to just stop at 2 colors in a palette. What about this color? I feel like it's kind of like this color here. It's kind of like this light color that I was mostly trying to avoid, but I don't know. Let's see. I'm thinking, oh, kind of liking them. And I know you're going to get to this phase where you're like, I don't want to ruin it. And I'm right there with you. I don't want to ruin the pieces after I get them to a spot that I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. But you're going to get stuck and you're going to hinder yourself in your own progress if you stop there and you don't get that little bit of braveness. And maybe you love what you do and maybe you didn't love what you did. And that's how we learn for the next time. I do love this though. This was a good choice. This was a brave moment that worked out. And yes, you need to spray these with a pastel spray. I got the Sennelier soft pastel spray right here. You know, run outside and spray that with a pastel spray if you need to fix that down. All right, so I'm really loving that. Also feeling like we could have some little white dots, so we'll get out my, and the reason why too, I like that little bit of pastel in there. It's a different texture, it's a different feel. It adds to the visual interest. I don't blow the powder when I have powder on my piece. I will tap that off on my table or on in my trash can. I'll just pick it up and tap it rather than allow that powder to contaminate all my surfaces. And I'm just going to come in here with some little light, pretty Posca dots. All right, I love that. I feel like I could be done. I feel like I could possibly be done. And I could go ahead and tap off. I just take an old towel, rag, whatever, and just tap the powder off. And then you could spray that outside if you wanted to, but I feel like I'm there right now. I feel like at the moment this is where I'm gonna leave it because I'm loving it. If you get to a point where you're like, I can't tell if it's finished, then set it to the side. You don't have to do all your art in one day. If you're thinking, I want to do something and I don't want to ruin it, set it to the side until you feel comfortable and you're like, okay, I know enough. I know how I want to finish this. You don't have to finish all your pieces immediately. You know, some painters work on paintings for months and they'll set things to the side and come back to it. Okay, that tape is just going to stay on there. There we go. Yeah, you don't have to do everything fast. Slow down. Appreciate the process. Think about your next steps. Work with different color palettes. Work on different... Oh, I love how easy the tape peels off this paper. Work on different ideas. And then one day you might be like, okay, this is finished. Okay, look at these. Peeling the tape is magic. It actually finishes off your piece and you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. I'm loving both those. Exploring some different color shades than I might normally explore. I actually would do blue and green, but maybe not in the way that I did this combined with these colors of blue and green. So I love that we stepped outside our comfort zone there. I also love that we played with different opacities and mixed the watercolor and the gouache to see some of the differences there. So that was super fun. That moss green, definitely my favorite bit in these pieces. So I hope you had fun painting with me today. This was a good paint day. I don't even feel like I need to cut these up. If you want to share what you're working on, feel free to tag me on Instagram. You can join my Facebook Art Peeps page if you want to come share what you're working on there. And I'll see you next time.